St. Albert.
Pietro Paolo, and I'd like to invite you to join me as I take you to the concert halls and churches of Europe and to Montreal for classical holiday favorites. Sunday, December 22nd, starting at 9 a.m., 9:30 in Newfoundland on CBC Music. And on the CBC Listen app. For the full broadcast schedule, go to cbcmusic.ca/joy.
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show? Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio anytime, anywhere. Download the CBC.
This is CBC News. At 12 o'clock, we're -7 with cloudy skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon, I'm Matt Humphrey. Manitoba will be sending conservation officers to keep an eye on the Canada-U.S. border. Premier Wab Kinew says it's Manitoba's contribution to increasing border security. President-elect Donald Trump has threatened a 25% tariff on Canadian goods if Canada doesn't do something about drugs and migrants illegally crossing the border. Typically, conservation officers patrol and enforce the Wildlife Act. Kinew says Ottawa is working on increasing the number of Mounties and border service agents, but this is something Manitoba can do right now.
Eyes on the border, right. And so we're not saying we're going to overstep any sort of jurisdictional issues, so you wouldn't see a CEO enforcing border law, right? But if there was something going on that they believe that CBSA needs to know about, they would report it to CBSA.
Kinew says the move is a clear message to the U.S. that our province is addressing security concerns. We're learning more about a double homicide in Portage La Prairie last weekend. Mounties found 37-year-old Emily Smoke dead in a home on Oak Bay Sunday night, along with her 42-year-old boyfriend. Now police say two people got out of a maroon-colored SUV and went into that home on Oak Bay just after 7 that evening. A short time later, both left the home and sped off in the SUV. Mounties believe the two are suspects in the homicides. They have released 2 photos of the SUV. Manitoba Major Crime Services is now asking for help identifying that vehicle. Canada is opening consulates in Anchorage, Alaska, and Nuuk, Greenland. It's part of the new Arctic policy framework unveiled this morning by Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly. She warns Russia has been modernizing its Arctic military capabilities.
Russia's military is more aggressive in its incursion into the Arctic. And now China has begun to launch joint operations with Russia. We're seeing more ships in the Arctic, and they're not only doing scientific research.
Ottawa announced more money for Arctic defense back in April. As part of the policy, Canada will appoint an Arctic ambassador, initiate Arctic security talks with foreign affairs ministers, and support science and research coordination in the Arctic. Canada's unemployment rate jumped to 6.8% last month as more people looked for work in a weakening job market. It was up from 6.5% the month before, that despite the economy adding more than 50,000 jobs in November. Most of the employment gains were in full-time work. Stats Can says November's jobless rate was the highest since January of 2017. That's except during the COVID-19 pandemic. Unemployment in Manitoba edged down slightly last month to 5.8%. Today is the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women. It's in honor of the victims of the École Polytechnique massacre 35 years ago in Montreal. Now, advocates are pointing to a surge in a different kind of gender-based violence. The issue of cyber violence is on the rise, according to the Fédération des Femmes du Québec. It says women account for up to 80% of criminal online harassment victims in Canada. Project coordinator Marina Mathieu says doxing is a common tactic,
which means using your confidential information to call you, to tell you, I know your address, I know where you are.
Experts say there needs to be more oversight regulations to deal with cyber violence. Romania's top court has annulled the results of the first round of voting in the country's presidential election. The bombshell decision comes just 2 days before a runoff vote was due to take place. Dominic Velitis has your details.
Voting is already underway in polling stations abroad, but now everything is put on hold. Documents declassified by Romania's top security council this week claim the country had been the target of aggressive hybrid Russian attacks during the election period. Pro-Moscow populist Călin Georgescu, who wants to end Romanian support for Ukraine, polled in single digits before voting, but went on to take 23% of the vote. Sunday's round would have pitted Georgescu against the pro-EU centrist leader Elena Lasconi. Lasconi condemned the court's decision, saying it undermined the will of the Romanian people. She insists she would have won the election if it was held as planned. Dominic Velitis for CBC News, Riga, Latvia.
Speaking of elections, we now know Elon Musk, the world's richest person, spent more than $250 million to help re-elect Donald Trump as U.S. president. That's according to new filings with the Federal Election Commission. The billionaire owner of Tesla and SpaceX contributed to groups backing Trump's campaign. That makes Musk one of the biggest backers of a presidential campaign in U.S. history. And it earned him a key role in the incoming Republican administration, heading up a new department ostensibly aimed at reducing government spending. And also, Purelator and UPS have paused shipments from couriers amid a delivery backlog. The chief operating officer of a company which uses a courier says big carriers like Purelator, UPS, FedEx, Canpar, and DHL are not equipped to pick up all the slack left by the Canada Post work stoppage. Looking at the forecast, chance of flurries and a high of -5 in Winnipeg today. Brandon, a high of -2 with a chance of flurries. Dauphin, a high of -2 with a chance of flurries. Flin Flon, periods of snow, a high of -11. Thompson, light snow at times, a high of -17. And in Churchill, a mix of sun and cloud, a high of -24. You're listening to CBC Radio 1.
Good afternoon, Manitoba. You're listening to a very special edition of Radio Noon. Today, all our programming is in support of Harvest Manitoba. Each month, over 100,000 Manitobans access food through a Harvest Manitoba program. And today on the show, we're going to meet a few of those people. Up first, we're going to visit 3 food banks in Brandon where a record number of people are showing up for help this year. Also today on the show, we are going to be opening up our phone lines, our call-in conversation. We want you to share an act of kindness you've experienced. Everyone's got a story. I know I do. Also, CEO Vince Barletta is standing by. He's going to share his story as well. You can call in after the 12:30 news as well. Local singer-songwriter Diaphne is here in studio, and she'll be performing live throughout the show. So sit back, listen. And if you're feeling up to it, donate. The number to call, 204-982-3581. That's 204-982-3581. You can also donate online, cbc.ca/BeKindMB. And this is Make the Season Kind in support of Harvest Manitoba. Well, to start off the show, actually, we do have Vince Barletta here with us. He is the CEO and president of Harvest Manitoba. Hi there, Vince.
Hey, Corey.
So let's start with updating the totals here. So just to set the stage here, there is a couple, Dave and Elena Forgan. They are willing to match up to $250,000. So where are we at right now since we started collecting donations today?
Since we started this morning, Corey, we are currently at $233,190. That's with that match. And again, we still have a long ways to go. We want to make sure we match every dollar of Dave and Elena's money, which would mean we'd need to get to around $500,000 by the end of the day. And I think we can do it.
Yeah. And if people are wondering what's the record, because we do this every year. So the record we've ever raised is $364,000. Last year was $325,000. So maybe we can beat that this year. It looks like we may even be on pace. So that's really exciting. That number again, 204-982-3581. That's the number to call. And if you want to donate online, pull out your credit card. That I gave the wrong address earlier already. But this is the right one. cbc.ca/kindmb. That's cbc.ca/kindmb. Well, as I mentioned earlier, a record number of Brandonites are now using support like the food bank and soup kitchen to make ends meet. Samaritan House Ministries Food Bank says they've had more than 2,000 new households start using their food banks in the past 18 months. That's in a city of 54,000 people. And Heather Simbalisti is executive director at Samaritan House, and she told CBC's Chelsea Kemp she doesn't expect hamper numbers to go down anytime soon.
We're at about approximately 110 brand new individuals seeking our assistance every month in the last little while. So since we've been tracking it, new people that have never used a food bank before has gone up to just over 2,200 households.
And is that just this year?
It's about a year and a half.
Do you have hope maybe one day you'll be less in demand, or are you kind of prepping to be even busier in 2025?
We are prepping to be even busier in 2025 just due to the economy and the what they're saying in the news coverage that things are just going to get tougher. So we're preparing that our numbers aren't going to go down anytime soon.
Did they first spike with COVID, or was there already a trend where it was growing?
It was growing with COVID and with people that weren't able to work in that, but it's just increased lately quite a bit. So yeah.
What do you hear from the people you talk to?
Oh, there still is a stigma. Lots of people still feel the shame and the stigma associated with the food bank, but yet we just really encourage them to come and seek our help. We have no judgment, and we just want to be as supportive to our community as possible.
Do you think they know just how they are not alone? That there is a good chunk of Brandon that needs help from Samaritan House?
I think a lot of people won't seek out our services because of the embarrassment and shame, but we just really want to encourage them to come down and register, and if they need food, we'll provide it to them as best as we can, and not to be ashamed. It's not anything that sometimes we can help. We get in situations that we just need that extra support.
How much do you worry about the future, if you do worry?
Oh, we definitely worry about the future because that COVID funding is no longer there. All those dollars are all gone. So now we have to look at the future and how we're going to navigate running the food bank and keeping our shelves full and providing the support that we do to the community. So yeah, it's going to take community to support us as we move forward.
That's Heather Simbalisti. She's executive director at Brandon's Samaritan House Ministries Food Bank and Safe and Warm Shelter. Well, next up, Chelsea spoke with Helping Hands Soup Kitchen. Their coordinator, Angela Braun, says they're busier than ever, and the number of lunches they serve continues to rise.
Right now, we're averaging about 200 people a day. The last few days, it's been a little bit slower, about 170, 180, but 200 is a pretty common number right now.
Has it always been that busy?
No, it is increased since I've been here for a year and a half, and it has increased quite a bit since then.
What do people tell you when you talk to them about, why they need the soup kitchen?
It can come from everything of housing being expensive, grocery costs. Some have just fallen on bad luck or, made mistakes. But a lot of the time it's just increasing costs, and they have to make a choice of housing or bills or groceries. Right now we have served over 43,000 meals year to date. By the end of the year, it's almost going to be the population of Brandon. It's not far off the population of Brandon that has come here to eat this year.
How do you keep up?
Amazing volunteers and donors. We get no provincial or federal funding. All of our food comes donated from local grocers, Hutterite colonies, things like that. A lot of the money that it takes to keep things running and everything up and going also comes from local donors. We actually have a zero grocery budget. We buy no food. So we serve what we get. Harvest Manitoba does contribute, and then most of the local grocers around here, there are colonies that plant extra space in their garden for us.
What can community do? What can people do just to help out Helping Hands?
There is so many ways to help out with us. You could come down and volunteer your time if you don't have money. You could plant an extra row of carrots in the summer or potatoes, the hardy vegetables that are going to last for a while.
How are you feeling about the future, right now? Do you think you're just going to keep getting busier?
Unfortunately, yeah. It is bittersweet as, oh, that's amazing. We fed 220 people today. But then there's also the bittersweet part of it of, holy smokes, 220 people had to come here to eat today. So we love what we do, but it's unfortunate that it keeps rising.
That's Angela Braun, the coordinator for Brandon Helping Hands. Ashley Stozick recently began using the food bank, and she told CBC's Chelsea Kemp that local nonprofits are helping her family survive in an increasingly expensive world.
I do work full time, but I am a single parent, and unfortunately with the prices of groceries and just living day to day, I struggle with deciding whether to put food on the table or have a place to live. And with kids nowadays, they want a lot of things, so it's hard to make ends meet.
When it comes just to everything we face right now, what would help your family the most right now?
Oh, honestly, I that's a good question, and I don't have the right answer for that. But places like this give hope. So I'm really just grateful that we have, Samaritan House. We have, other places where you can get, clothing for cheap, like Super Thrift and stuff like that. So it's just, it's important.
That's Ashley Stozick. She accesses Helping Hands in Brandon. Well, you're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1. And with us here in studio is the Harvest Manitoba CEO, Vince Barletta. And Vince, I saw you kind of nodding along while we were playing this tape here. You know a lot of these folks who, not only use the food banks, but also people who make this happen. And you said Brandon really, punches above their weight in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. I mean, two great organizations there, Samaritan House Ministries, Helping Hands Kitchen, serving a tremendous number of people and some great folks there, including Barb McNish from Samaritan House, who's just retired, and happy retirement to her. Rural poverty and rural food bank demand on a per capita basis, we have a lot of communities, including Brandon, that see heavier food bank use on a per capita basis than even the city of Winnipeg. So there's tremendous poverty all across this province. And of course, the funds raised today help Harvest Manitoba support 50 communities all across Manitoba.
And speaking of the funds raising, so we're at $237,000 with matching so far this afternoon. And actually, Vince, there's actually a organization that's put out a challenge as well. Tell us about that.
I love the challenges, and we have had earlier today the Rotary Club of Winnipeg with a contribution of $1,000, and they are calling on all the Rotarians, all the Rotary clubs around Manitoba to match or do better than that contribution. So there you go, Rotarians. You've got a challenge ahead of you.
Also, if you just want to donate $1,000 and you're not a Rotarian, let's go for it.
Do it.
And you can put out a challenge too if you're a business or an individual. When you make your donation, you can kind of make that known and we'll let that out into the world. So you can donate online, cbc.ca/kindmb. That's cbc.ca/kindmb. You can also phone in 204-982-3581. That's 204-982-3581.
Manitoba's the kind of place that draws you in. Every day it's growing, it's changing. Just when you think you've got it figured out, though, there's something new to understand. I'm Marcy Marcusa, host of the CBC Daily Podcast. This is Manitoba. I've covered the news from the rail line in Churchill to the border in Emerson, and it's talking about the local stories that help us understand this place. That's what This is Manitoba is all about. Find it on CBC Listen or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
12:17 right now here on Radio Noon, on a very special edition of Radio Noon. It is Make the Season Kind, and we are raising funds for Harvest Manitoba. And standing by in just a few minutes here, Diaphne will be performing live in studio. We're also opening up the phone lines after 12:30 to hear your stories of kindness, acts of kindness. We've all got them, of those strangers who have just gone above and beyond to be kind to us. We're going to open the phone lines to let you call in to tell us a little bit about what your stories are. That's coming up after 12:30. But right now, though, let's take a look at current conditions across the province. Brandon at the airport, some freezing fog right now, -4, so could be some dicey conditions on the highways around there. Churchill, ice crystals right now, you're sitting at -27. Dauphin, cloudy right now. You are sitting at -7. Flin Flon at the airport, mostly cloudy, -14. Gillam, partly cloudy, -24. Island Lake, light snow right now, -16. Lynn Lake, light snow, -20. Hotspot right now in the province is Shoal Lake. You're at -3 right now. To Dooley Lake, lots of lakes in our province to Dooley Lake. Minus 27 right now. You're the cold spot in the province today. The Paw, you're minus 13, mostly cloudy for you. Thompson, some ice crystals, you're at minus 21. And Winnipeg at the airport, light snow, minus 7. Well, local singer-songwriter Heather Thomas is stepping into the spotlight after spending much of her career as a backup singer for artists like Begonia. And earlier this year, she actually released her EP, Solid Gold, and she set off on her first tour under the name Diaphne. And she is here with us in studio at the CBC on the corner of Portage and Spence. Here she is now with her song, Eternal Friend. Live here in Studio 11 at our building on the corner of Portage and Spence. You're listening to Radio Noon. I'm Corey Funk, and I'm actually here live with Diaphne. Hi there.
Hi.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Well, tell us actually a little bit about this song and what the inspiration behind it was.
Well, it's really about friendship, but gratitude for friendships past and relationships that have meant a lot to you. And I feel like it can also be gratitude for people who affect you in smaller ways. And to me, that felt really relevant today.
Well, I actually understand. So now you made your debut as Diaphne just recently within the year, but you're known on the music scene here. Diaphne might be new, but Heather Thomas, a lot of musicians would know. You've worked for Begonia, or you've sang with Begonia. Tell me a little bit about what's been like to kind of break out into your own and kind of build your own rapport on the music scene.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's exciting. Everyone's been super supportive. CBC as well. Like y'all have done so much for me with my songs, and I really, really appreciate it. I'm having a great time.
Oh, good. Well, we love your voice. It's beautiful. And I have to say, I do love this next song that you're about to play, Solid Gold. Actually, tell me a little bit about it.
Well, I wrote it during the pandemic, and it was really about me biking around my neighborhood downtown, just being kind of sad about all the places that I used to go that were closed. But I feel like it's really just a celebration of Winnipeg and what brings us together, especially as young people.
Well, I'll say my wife and I, we listen to it a lot because I know for you it was like kind of lamenting during the pandemic being able to go and do things, but we have 2 kids now. So we listen to it as our kind of way of getting out on our own little virtual bike ride around the city. So we really appreciate it. And we'll let you take it away here. Here is Diaphne with Solid Gold. You're hearing it right here on CBC Radio 1.
Buying singles at the Woodbine, dancing in a grapevine, taking boys that are not mine. Circle in the Goodwill, trying to find a spot that's free. I'll keep looking until City Hall, Central Park, Solid Gold, after dark. Running every stop sign, trying to make the garbage hill climb. Red wine by the riverside. Cross the bridge when we get there. Maybe climb the fire escape. Anything to get away. City Hall, Central Park, Solid Gold, after dark. Playing chicken on Sherbrooke, maybe hit a karaoke bar. We don't have to go too far. Don't you know this is for fur? No one ever calls a chauffeur, and it all becomes a blur. City Hall, Central Park, Solid Gold, after dark. City Hall, Central Park, Solid Gold, after dark.
That's Diaphne with Solid Gold. You also heard her guitarist there, Elisar Thiessen. We're going to hear more from Diaphne after 12:30. But right now on this week's new episode from Alberta, St. Alberta, Alberta, the debaters are asking if the pickup truck is the best type of vehicle. Katie Ellen Humphreys says trucks are top tier, but Dan Taylor believes it's time to hit the brakes. Here's Dan and Katie Ellen bringing their best pickup truck patter to the firing line.
The Toronto Star says that in 2023, pickup trucks accounted for 4 of the top 5 selling vehicles in Canada. According to the article, why has Canada become such a truck nation? Dan?
Because becoming a car nation would be too flowery.
All right. That got a rise. That got a rise out of the crowd here.
Are you not entertained?
Katie Ellen Humphreys.
Canada has become such a truck nation because you can't convoy in a Corolla, am I right?
Oh, I would pay to see a Corolla convoy. Just the anger. Meep, 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 meep.
Someone's never been to the St. Albert Farmers Market and it shows.
It's got to be all Corollas. Why has Canada become such a truck nation? Because trucks have become a social norm and auto dealers are pushing more large vehicles. I'm saying this in Alberta. This is just history here. And that's the firing line, everybody.
That was the debaters, comedians Dan Taylor and Katie Ellen Humphreys in their debate on pickup trucks. You can check out that brand new episode of the debaters tomorrow here on CBC Radio 1. Well, today right now is a very special episode of Radio Noon. It is Make the Season Kind, and we are helping raise money for Harvest Manitoba. And so far, we've raised $237,000 so far. That is with matching from Dave and Elena Forgan, who are matching up to $250,000. So keep those donations coming, because with matching, that means we could raise as much as $500,000. So that number to call if you do want to make a donation, 204-982-3581. That's 204-982-3581. You can also donate online. Just go to www.cbc.ca/kindmb. That's cbc.ca/kindmb. Well, stay tuned here on CBC Radio 1. We're going to hear more live from Diaphne, who has been amazing so far on the show. Looking forward to hearing more from her. We're also about to open up the phone lines to hear your stories of acts of kindness that you've experienced, or maybe you want to tell us about something that you've done as well. You can call us 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. Tell us a story about an act of kindness that you've experienced. We want to hear your story here live on Radio Noon. You're listening to a very special edition of Make the Season Kind. More to come after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. At 12:30, we are at minus 7 degrees with cloudy skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon, I'm Matt Humphrey. Conservation officers in Manitoba will soon start watching the Canada-U.S. border in an attempt to increase security. Premier Wab Kinew had few details, but says it's a way this province can contribute to the plan to address U.S. border concerns. Conservation officers enforce the Wildlife Act and patrol. Kinew didn't say how many, but says some will now be reassigned to border areas.
And the idea is just to have more of a presence in the region, given the fact that our economic relationship with the U.S., which is so important, is going to rely on us saying, you know what, we are a trusted partner when it comes to jobs. We're a trusted partner when it comes to cracking down on drugs, and we're a trusted partner when it comes to the border, too.
Kinew says the COs will not be enforcing the law, but will be additional eyes and ears for Mounties and Canada Border Services agents. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has threatened a 25% tariff on Canadian goods if border security isn't increased. We're learning more about a double homicide in Portage la Prairie last weekend. Mounties found 37-year-old Emily Smoke dead in a home on Oak Bay Sunday night, along with her 42-year-old boyfriend. Now police say two people got out of a maroon-colored SUV and went into that home on Oak Bay just after 7 that evening. A short time later, both left the home and sped off in the SUV. Mounties believe the two are suspects in the homicides. They have released 2 photos of the SUV, and Manitoba Major Crime Services is now asking for help identifying that vehicle. And Winnipeg property owners may soon face the largest municipal property tax hike in 34 years. The first draft of the 2025 city budget is due out Wednesday. Sources at City Hall say the budget calls for a 5.95% property tax increase next year. The hike this year was 3.5%. Mayor Scott Gillingham's office declined to comment. In recent months, the mayor has hinted at a higher tax increase. A 5.95% tax hike would be the largest for Winnipeg since 1990, when Bill Norrie was mayor. And commemorations are taking place in Montreal today to mark a dark day in Canadian history. It's been 35 years since a gunman killed 14 women at École Polytechnique simply because they were women. There will be an addition to today's ceremony as well. A 15th beam of light will shine into the sky above Mount Royal, joining the 14 that are usually lit for each of the Polytechnique victims. This 15th beam is to represent women killed by intimate partner violence. And that is your CBC News from Winnipeg. For news anytime, you can head to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba, or you can use the CBC News app.
Here's another update for you, Matt. Here's a new number that we got.
Oh, yeah.
Donations are in. So this is Radio Noon, Make the Season Kind. We're raising money for Harvest Manitoba.
I got my shirt.
It looks great. $243,000 So we're almost on $250,000. We're so close. And I mean, that's with matching. So, and there's still plenty of more to match. We have a couple that is matching up to $250,000 today. So that could mean $500,000 we could raise in today with matching and even more beyond that. So very exciting. So kind. And thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you. Back
That is
soon.
Matt Humphrey at our CBC News desk. And speaking of kindness, this is Make the Season Kind on CBC Radio 1. And we are about to do a call-in about acts of kindness. What have you experienced? But first, though, I want to know if the weather is going to be kind to us, Riley.
Sorry. Unless you like snow.
But okay, we
Unless you
move
like
on from
snow,
Riley
but-
now. Sorry. So next up, no, tell us what's going on.
-7 in Winnipeg right now. Temperature will continue to rise as we get through the day today, through the overnight period tonight, into the day tomorrow. -4 in Brandon, -21 in Thompson, and some colder air along the Hudson Bay coast right now. Churchill's at -27. Some cloud cover, some snow has started to move into northwestern Manitoba, Flin Flon, the Pas through Lynn Lake, seeing a substantial amount of cloud right now ahead of another area of low pressure. Into southern Manitoba, some low cloud hanging around that's really not even being picked up on satellite right now. Around the Brandon region, through near the Riding Mountain region, a little bit of low hanging cloud, and that's kind of what we're stuck under here in the Red River Valley as well. I'm hopeful that we will see a few breaks in this cloud as we get through the afternoon today, and we'll see a little bit of sun by the time we get to late afternoon. But generally, mostly cloudy today as this area of low pressure in northern Manitoba continues to move southeast. This will bring snow to Grand Rapids, Norway House through the Island Lake region, Barons River, Thompson through the day today into the night tonight. As this system moves southeast over eastern Manitoba into northwestern Ontario, this brings a pretty widespread risk of some freezing drizzle or some freezing rain overnight tonight. Kind of Grand Rapids, Arbor, Gimli, and south into the Red River Valley as we get into the early morning on Saturday. We do get a little bit of clearing as we get through Saturday, so a mix of sun and clouds through tomorrow. And then we get ready for the next round as we get into the day on Sunday. This is an Alberta Clipper moving across the southern prairies, the beginnings of which begin to move into the Westman region early Sunday. Periods of snow begin to develop through late morning into the afternoon for Winnipeg Sunday at this point, and continuing into Monday, pretty accumulating amount of snow, which I'll get into. So northern Manitoba, 5 to 10 centimeters, could see some pockets up to 15 through by the time we get to early Sunday. In southern Manitoba, that snow begins to move in Sunday into, by the time we get to Monday, I'm saying a general 6 to 12 centimeters to the Red River Valley. Could see some pockets up to 15 even around the Riding Mountain region, maybe even up to 20 in that Riding Mountain region by the time we get to lunchtime Monday. But generally, southern Manitoba in for about 6 to 12 centimeters. Could see into that 15 to 20 range, even up to 30 into northwestern Ontario, taking into account this low that's moving across the region today and the Alberta Clipper that'll move through as we get through the day on Monday. It's northwestern Ontario. So some pretty significant snow. This is going to create some pretty dicey driving conditions through later Sunday into Monday, really across southern Manitoba. So just putting that out there now. Temperatures afternoon -5 for Winnipeg by the time we get to the late afternoon today, close to the freezing mark into the Westman region. Up to 3 degrees tomorrow afternoon in Winnipeg. We see the risk of some fog patches overnight into Sunday morning. Then that snow begins to develop Sunday into Monday, and temperatures really plunging by mid next week. High next Wednesday, for example, at -18.
Thank you very much, Riley.
You're welcome.
That is Riley Laychuk, our weather specialist and climate change reporter. Well, we are about to open up the phone lines, but first I want to give an even more important number out because today is Make the Season Kind. We are helping support Harvest Manitoba today, and we are collecting donations. We're already, with matching, $243,000 in. We've collected today, and there's still plenty more time. We're hoping to break a record, which is, if you're wondering, $364,000 is the record that we broke just a few years ago. So we're on pace. So we're on our way. Keep those donations coming. That number, you can donate by phone, 204-982-3581. That's 204-982-3581. You can also donate online. You can go to cbc.ca/kindmb. That's cbc.ca/kindmb. And to keep with the theme of kindness, that is our call-in topic today. We are opening up the phone lines to collect your stories of kindness, those random acts of kindness, or maybe even not so random acts of kindness. You can give us a call. We want to hear from you. Maybe a car in front of you in a drive-through paid it for by just paying for your coffee. Maybe someone shoveled your driveway for you. Maybe you have something grandiose. Give us a call. Tell us your story. 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. You can also text us, 204-588-7355. I want to give you an example of a story we heard actually just this morning from musician Connor Dara. He was on our show, and about 15 years ago, Connor suffered a traumatic brain hemorrhage during a routine surgery. After he was only able to use his left hand, which is devastating for someone who plays piano and saxophone, but it was an act of kindness from a local saxophone legend that helped him heal.
Wally Larson, who is a Winnipegger, now lives in LA, he reached out to my dad after my injury and said, hey, I want to come play with Connor. So a couple months after my injury, he came over to the house and he played his tenor saxophone. I played piano with my left hand, and he knew I played saxophone. So he says, I want to teach you sax lessons because this is going to be hard to deal with, but this we can work with. And I said, well, how much do you charge? It's Wally Larson. And he says, no, I don't think you understand. I want to teach you saxophone lessons. And he taught me 2 years of free lessons. He wouldn't take anything, but he saw something in me, and it was very inspiring and just so great to get to work with him. And yeah, he got me back playing.
So that's an example of an act of kindness. And if you got a story of your own, give us a call, 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. And with us in studio, as he's been all afternoon here and this morning as well, is Vince Barletta. He's CEO of Harvest Manitoba. Hey there, Vince.
How you doing?
So I want to start. Tell me your story. Do you have a story of an act of kindness that you experienced?
I do, Corey, and it's a sad one, and it's still fresh. Just last month, Harvest lost in a tragic highway accident. Our warehouse manager, Kurt Liberté, was killed just at the beginning of November out on the highway on his way into work. And again, a much beloved member of our Harvest crew, a real loss for the organization, a loss for his family and his friends. And I think about all the random acts of kindness that happened all around Harvest, our staff, our volunteers, the outpouring of support, the support for Kurt's family, Nicole and the family, and all the different ways that people remembered Kurt and are going to continue to remember Kurt. And so it was a tough one for Harvest, a tough loss, but it was wonderful to see people come together and respect Kurt's legacy at Harvest.
Thanks for that story. I'm sorry to hear about that. That's tough. Thanks for sharing that. If you have your own story, 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. So actually, I just want to even go talk about your latest report, because also we are raising funds today for Harvest. And so Harvest Voices, it just came out actually today. It says Harvest Manitoba hit record high numbers over the past year, with 50,000 people going to one of the food banks you support across the province. So what are some of the factors that are leading to this record high right now?
Well, what we're seeing, Corey, is the continuing story of inflation. And even though those inflation numbers have come down in the last year or so, the reality is for many, many people, their incomes simply haven't kept pace. We're dealing with issues of affordable housing, people being able to access housing, people being able to access training and education programs for better employment prospects was one of the number one things we heard from people responding to the report. And the reality is we're seeing 45% of people that use food banks have a job, whether that's a full or a part-time job. So the face of people that use food banks is changing. The common denominator is people don't have enough money to get to the end of the month, and there's a whole host of reasons for it. But that lingering inflation, Corey, is still a big one for a lot of people.
I can only imagine. We do have the lines starting to light up here, so we're going to get your calls on shortly. 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893 if you want to share your story of kindness. I'll tell you mine. I used to live in Halifax. And I was walking home one day, and I get home and I realized I had dropped my my driver's license. I just didn't have it. But then within like 20 minutes, I get a Facebook message, and it starts with, this is the most Canadian thing ever. It's like, sorry to bother you, but I think I've just found your driver's license. Once again, sorry to inconvenience you, but can we find a way to get this back? And sure enough, I met up with them. They were lovely, and they gave me back my driver's license. They took the time, and they still felt weirdly bad about it, which is so Canadian, about being nice. But yeah, I thought that was just just a great little Canadian kindness moment. And we've actually got Matthew on the line here as well. Hey there, Matthew.
Well, it's Matthew.
Hey.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Matthew. I think you got a story to tell?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, what's your story?
So when I was when I was 15, I was at Northgate City Mall watching a movie, and when I left, I was new to the city, and I got lost. And I've gone to this gas station and used the phone. They let me use the phone, and I couldn't remember the number to where I lived. It was about minus 30 outside, super cold. And one of the South Asian men that were there came and picked me up and drove me around until I could recognize a 7-Eleven on Mountain, and I got home safe that night.
Wow, that's a generous amount of time spent just driving you around until you figured out where to go. That's wild.
Exactly, while on shift too. So it was a real human moment, and I really appreciate it because I could have froze that night.
Well, no doubt. Have you kind of paid it forward since at all?
Yeah, I have, absolutely.
Oh, that's good. Thank you very much for that call there, Matthew. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Give us your calls. If you've got other good stories of acts of kindness, 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. We got some more calls coming in here as well. I could also tell you someone picked me up one time. I was getting chased by a crow in St. John's, Newfoundland. And a lady picked me up. She saw this crow was literally attacking me. I was trying to run away, and she drove by and she opened up the door and she says, "As long as you don't rob me, I'll get you where you need to go." And then I got in the car and then got away from this, and she drove me to school, which is very, very nice of her. There's everyone has like multiple acts of kindness, and we also have Alan on the phone here too. Hi there, hello there, Alan.
Yeah, hi. This is such an amazing story, but let me tell you of somebody that did something beyond the call of duty. And it was during the pandemic, and I run a company, and at the time we couldn't do live shows, so we could only do online shows. Well, I had a good client in the U.S., a company called Client Boost, where I hosted these shows for years. They knew about my situation, and they wanted to have one last show before I went in for a life-saving operation. I literally was told I had 6 months to live if I didn't do this operation, and they didn't know how the operation would take. Well, I go through the show, and I read off all the amazing prizes. They gave away a new bed. They gave away a laptop computer. They gave away 4 tickets to Ringo All-Stars concert, on and on it went. I'm reading through these prizes. I'm like, wow, these are amazing prizes. I'm about to announce the winner, and the owner of the company steps in and says, well, I just want to let you know these prizes are all for you.
Huh.
I'm crying right now, but the crying tears of joy because I am doing really well. I saw my doctor on Monday, and they gave me the all clear at this point.
Congrats, man.
Yeah,
wow.
You talk about beyond acts of kindness because I couldn't work for almost a year. And what they did for me was truly the spirit of what this season is all about. And I'll never forget it. When you had this topic, I knew I had to share this.
Well, we're so glad you did, Alan. What a great story. Thanks so much for calling, and so glad you're doing well. And I imagine it's acts of kindness like these that probably, played a big part in where you are today, hey?
I think so. I absolutely think so. Thank you, and keep up the great work.
You too, Alan. Thank you. Wow, what a story. We've actually got another. We just got callers coming in. So many wonderful stories, and keep them coming if you want. 204-780-0893. We've got Lisa on the line here. Hi, Lisa.
Hi there.
What's your story?
Well, I was going to the ball game, the Golders game, but I went to the Forks for supper. We were with family from out of town, and so I'm parking the car, and I took my wallet out with everything you can imagine in it, credit cards and money and the whole shebang, and put the money in the meter. And we went, and I went over the ball game, and I couldn't find anything, and the wallet was gone. But what happened was someone found it on top of the where you pay the fee, and took it to the old spaghetti factory, and then tried to Facebook me, just like what you were mentioning. But I don't check it very often. So about 3 weeks later, I had canceled everything. I just wrote off all the money and the whole thing. And he said, "Oh, by the way, we found your wallet, and it's safe and sound at the old spaghetti factory." So they held it there at the old spaghetti factory until I was able to pick it up, and everything was in it.
Amazing.
I know. I was so thankful because sometimes I have lost other wallets and they never showed up again. But anyway, this one did, and I thought that was very kind. So
That's very kind. Thanks a lot, Lisa. Appreciate your story.
thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We've got time actually for one final story here from MJ. Hi there, MJ.
Hello.
Hi, what's your story?
My husband died 4 years ago, and my neighbor 2 doors down always does the back lane, my back lane behind my garage, and the one next door where a handicapped person lives whose sister went into a nursing home just before Christmas last year. So it's so wonderful to go out there and see that back lane cleared like that. And he just always does it and never says anything about it. His name is Ross Lamb.
Wow. It's those like those quiet acts of kindness too, where people just go about it and just don't ask for any recognition. You gotta love that, hey?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, MJ, thanks for calling in. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
What a host of stories we've just jam packed into the last 10 minutes or so. Like it's wild. And as a reminder, if this is Make the Season Kind. This is why we're talking about kindness today, sharing these stories. I was tearing up a little bit at Alan's story. I don't know about you there, Vince, but oh man,
Pretty incredible stories, Corey. And when I think about it, Harvest Manitoba and so many charities. I mean, this is about Harvest today, but so many charities across the province that do incredible work. It's all about those random acts of kindness. It's all about people saying, I'm going to give a little bit from what I have, my money, my time, my energy, my spirit, and give it to someone else who needs it more than I do right now. And that's really, when you get right down to it, what charity is all about. And it's what today is all about.
And speaking of kindness, we just got another numbers update here, Vince. And so far, wow, it jumped up a lot in the past few minutes.
Wow.
But people are feeling kind. $266,000 is what we're at. So we're well past the $250,000 point. So with matching, we're at $266,000. Let's keep those donations coming. If you are inspired by the stories that you just heard, you want to pass along the kindness, that number to call, 204-982-3581. That's 204-982-3581. You can also donate online, cbc.ca/kindmb. That's cbc.ca/kindmb. And thanks to everyone who called in and shared their stories. And I bet you that's just like the tip of the iceberg in terms of kind stories here in Manitoba.
Pretty cool, amazing stories, amazing Manitobans, and that's the spirit. That's the kind of province that we live in. That's why we can get things done here in Manitoba in a way that nobody else can.
Mm-hmm. Well, that ends the call-in portion. That was lovely, and we also have artist Diaphane here with us in studio, and here now is Diaphane with her song Maggie.
You took your time to come into my life, Maggie. I almost thought you would never arrive, Maggie. In almost an instant, I knew that I couldn't lie, Maggie. You take away all my sorrows and pain, Maggie. You shine the light where there was only rain, Maggie. You come along and surprise me again and again, Maggie, oh Maggie, Maggie. just to show all my cards, Maggie. I've been afraid to let go of my heart, Maggie. Something in you has convinced me I have to start. Maggie, you got me. You'll never drop me. Maggie, you'll never let me down. You keep my head up high in the sky. You keep my feet on the ground, Maggie. Now every day it's a pleasure to say, Maggie. Even alone, I'm no longer afraid, Maggie. You gave me back all that I gave away. Maggie, you got me. You'll never drop me. Maggie, you'll never let me down. You keep my head up high in the sky. You keep my feet on the ground. Maggie, you got me. You'll never drop me. Maggie, you'll never let me down. You keep my head up high in the sky. You keep my feet on the ground. Yeah. Maggie. Maggie.
That's Diaphane live here in studio at Studio 11 at CBC. That is her song, Maggie. And you can check out her new debut EP. It's called Solid Gold. And guitarist, if you're wondering who was playing along and singing along with her, is Alisar Thiessen. Well, we are coming up to the end of the show here. And what a show. The music, the stories, and it seems to have inspired quite a bit of donations here for Harvest, hasn't it, Vince?
Well, absolutely. I mean, as we're closing out the hour, we're at $271,000. It just keeps coming in. And again, beautiful music like that, beautiful stories, Corey. People are starting to give.
Yeah, it's wild. And you can keep those donations coming, 204-982-3581 if you'd like to donate over the phone. That's 204-982-3581. Also, cbc.ca/kindmb. That's cbc.ca/kindmb. Actually, Vince, quickly, before I forgot, I realized also people sometimes like to mail checks. But absolutely. I know there's actually a new arrangement that you kind of actually have with the province, believe it or not, to make sure people can do that too.
Absolutely, and a big thanks to Premier Canoe for thinking of this idea and working with us on this. There are 20 plus locations around the province of Manitoba that the Manitoba government has set up for people to conduct their business with the province. And due to the postal strike, at any one of those locations, you can drop off a check for Harvest Manitoba. Mark the envelope, Harvest Manitoba. It'll be dropped off in a secure government building, and you'll get your full tax receipt for it. As well, you can drop off checks at Harvest Manitoba, 1085 Winnipeg Avenue, also the Winnipeg Free Press, and also our friends at the Bomber Store at the Winnipeg Football Club.
Vince Barletta, CEO of Harvest Manitoba, thank you.
Thank you.
This is not the end. You can keep donating, and we're going to keep the quality programming going with great music and stories about the, dare I say, dire hunger situation we have in our province today on Up to Speed from 3 to 6. And host Faith Fundal is here to tell us a little bit about the programming that's ahead for that.
Yes, Corey, protecting some of the most vulnerable Manitobans. We're going to hear why a group is calling on the province to update its rules around payday loans And who is most at risk if the Public Utilities Board doesn't listen and if the province doesn't make changes? Harvest Manitoba is one of the organizations that's part of this coalition. We'll hear from the lawyer representing the coalition. And you mentioned the special show will continue as well with some live music from Cease and from Slowburn, among other musicians. It's going to be a great show this afternoon.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Faith.
Thank you.
Well, that is a wrap for Make the Season Kind, the Radio Noon edition. Thank you, everyone who called in and shared your stories. Thank you to everyone who donated. I'm going to give that number one last time here, 204-982-3581. That's 204-982-3581. You can also donate cbc.ca/kindmb. If those stories of kindness inspired you today, I know they did for me, pay it forward. You can donate and, make a big difference for Manitobans and other folks here in our community. Big thank you as well to everyone who put together today's show. It was a huge team of folks that it takes to put together something like this, especially a live show with live music like this. Wendy Parker, Marshall Hodgins, Sierra Sanders, Kevin Nipatebo, Brian Harder. Thank you, everyone, for helping put together today's show. I'm Corey Funk, and whatever you find yourself up to today, hope you get outside or just stay inside, but just do something you love with the people you love. Coming up next on CBC Radio 1 Podcast Showcase. Have a good one.